in a long while. You have a new book out now too that we need to celebrate.
That's right, I do. We certainly haven't had a conversation on air like this. This is my new book.
No.
Intuition,
Yes.
Chakras. Yeah, and I'm so happy about it because it took me a while to write it, but I was lucky enough to get a publishing deal with Llewellyn, and so that's great because it gets the book out there all around the world.
And we'll talk a little bit about the details of your book in a little bit, but tell us what you've been up to. It's been so long since we've talked. You've got a radio show now, and your new website, and all kinds of things happened. And please also talk about the Midas tree and the successes of that.
Sure. Yes. So, gosh, it's been a long time, hasn't it? I have a radio show. Radio show is called Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley. And it's actually been going for 4.5, if not 5 years. And we've got over 250 podcast episodes.
That's wonderful.
All about metaphysics and spirituality, all about developing your psychic abilities. And if anyone wants to sort of investigate that, you can go to my website, drlesleyphillips.com/category podcast, and all of those past episodes are there. And it's all available for free. So anything that you could possibly think of, really, you'll find in one of those podcasts.
Will we be able to share that link on your page on the hub as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the big things that I've been doing is really building up my online courses, my online psychic development courses. So under the umbrella of the School of Intuition, there's now approximately 12 or 13 different psychic development courses. So I take you through overcoming your blocks to your intuition in Unlock Your Intuition. But then from there, you can go into developing all of your clairs, your clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance. I've got a transmediumship course on there, 3 levels of Kundalini courses, and continue to add new content all the time. There's also some smaller workshops as well. I call them Akashic Adventures. So that I've been building up really a huge repository of teaching and information, because really that's my passion. My passion is to teach people that they have intuition and how to access it. Because once you can be in touch with your higher guidance, then that's what you need to sort of propel you forward with your life purpose. And you know, you learn those skills, then you've got them for the rest of your life.
So I'm not sure everyone here is familiar with the Midas tree. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit, because I mean, that was a fascinating project that you embarked on in your past. And also your intuitive cards that you have.
Sure. Yes. Well, I'll start with the intuitive card deck. I've actually got a deck of them here in front of me. I keep them on my deck. So way back when, as you know, Shirose, I used to be a scientist.
That's right.
I used to wear a business suit, not this funny psychic get-up. And then I did some very intense personal spiritual awakening. While I was doing that, I did paintings. I did sort of like automatic drawings, and they're what eventually became this card deck. And it's really my personal journey of spiritual unfoldment depicted in these images, which are highly symbolic. And really they symbolize the spiritual unfoldment of mankind, you know, everybody's spiritual awakening. So that was my first project, or tangible creation, if you like. They're called Portico Soul Essence cards. Yeah, and they're kind of fun, whimsical, colorful things. So that answers that question. And then you wanted to know also about my first book, The Midas Tree. So
yes, that's a children's book.
Yeah, the reading age is about age 12, but it's honestly been read by so many adults as well as children. It is a spiritual adventure novel about a boy called Joshua, and Joshua is on a journey, the journey of life. So the book starts out and he isn't born into the physical realm yet, but he is called upon by source energy to go on a journey. And the journey is inside the Midas tree. And the Midas tree is an analogy for physical reality. And like any of us, as he goes on his adventure of life, he encounters challenges, difficulties. And there are teachers within the tree, which are these magical divas, who share spiritual wisdom with Joshua. And they teach him to meditate, and they teach him special energy techniques, which are the same energy techniques that I teach in my classes. And when he learns how to use the energy techniques, which teach him to operate consciously as spirit, even though he's in the human form, he overcomes his challenges. And that really was my gift, A, to be a channel for writing it, but B, to help children to stay connected with their higher being, with their spiritual guidance, and with the truth of who they really are, and not lose all of their amazing gifts, like so many of us in the older generations have done.
Yeah. And I've read the book myself, and it reads as a child's story, but it has so much amazing insight in there and so much teaching in there that any adult can benefit from who's wanting to open up to their spiritual gifts.
And what was amazing about that book was it was the runner-up in a book award. So, which is for the first time I ever wrote, and published a novel. It was runner-up in the Eric Hoffer Book Awards in 2015, which is
wonderful. Wonderful. Everyone really should read that book and have it on their shelf for their children, because it is a really fun book. And there's some really amazing graphics in there as well.
Yeah, I should mention as well that there is an audiobook version available, so you can listen to the story with your child. And I also created a course for adults and teachers to work with the audiobook, and also be able to take the children that they're working with through some additional exercises based on the adventures in the book. So it helps you to teach your child to meditate. And that course comes with all of those beautiful color images, the audio book, and a series of meditations to listen to.
The radio show, talk to me a little bit about how the radio show came to be and how you enjoy it and your experience with it.
Well, it came to be, we were at a summer fair and the radio station had a booth at the summer fair, and we just got talking to them. And the radio station that we broadcast from, which is CIVL 101.7 FM, their remit is it's community radio. So it is to support shows that are maybe not exactly in the mainstream. And so we got to talking about the work that I did and how little bit different it is. And from there,
Right.
the radio show was born. And for the first, probably the first 3.5, 4 years, we used to go into the radio station and broadcast live. And lately, this year, we've started pre-recording the show a week in advance, live streaming it to my Facebook group, which is the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group, live streaming it on my YouTube channel. And so if you either follow me on YouTube or join the Facebook group, you actually get to see the show a week in advance of when it actually airs on the radio. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, all the past episodes are also up on my website. So the show is fantastic. I really love engaging with the listeners, which is one of the reasons why we're doing the live stream version now, because we can kind of have our own couple of chat rooms going, because people listen live and they post their questions while we're talking. They make their own discussion points while we're talking on the show. And, you know, it's just really wonderful to be in touch with people and hear about their unique spiritual experiences and spiritual awakenings that they're going through, and help them along a bit as best I can as well.
Right. Well, it'd be wonderful to have you do a live show for us soon and engage our audience as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Talk a little bit to anyone who is listening to this interview and knows nothing about their spiritual gifts and what's possible out there, and what really they can engage in themselves to open up these gifts for themselves. Because many of our audiences will already know about the clairs and intuition, but there's an audience out there that doesn't really haven't even tapped into these gifts yet. What would you say to them?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I'll just make one comment that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, meditation was a peculiar thing that hippies did, right? And now it's mainstream. It's in all big corporations, you know, have a belief in meditation as something that can really support them and their employees. One of the things that you do when you meditate is you turn within. You quiet all of that busy noise, that busy external noise of your life and your monkey mind and your emotional levels. And in that process of turning within and quieting the mind, you start to get to know yourself. You start to get to know who you really are deep inside yourself. So that knowledge of self is part of your intuition. And as you go on that meditation journey, if you're someone that meditates, actually what happens is your intuition naturally opens. So the more you quiet your mind, calm down, and turn within, the more that starts to open up. And so it is actually a natural process. And one of my hopes is that psychic abilities or intuition will follow that way that the meditation has, of becoming something that's just mainstream, not taboo, not just in the realm of peculiar people, but something that we all have within us, because we all do have it within us. And my favorite way of thinking about the psychic abilities is this. In the physical realm, you have 5 physical senses. And those 5 physical senses help you navigate the physical world, right? They tune into the vibrations that are here in the world of physical matter. Your,
Right.
your psychic abilities are they're your spiritual senses. They're another set of senses that you have as spirit, and you have them whether you are in a body or not in a body. And they are how you navigate the world of spirit, and they are how you communicate as spirit. So they have a broader range of wavelengths and vibrations that you can tune into, if it's on the visible level or the auditory level. And, you know, as humans, we communicate through language. And we think and speak. We communicate through language. Language is linear, and it's it's not multidimensional, you know? There's only a certain amount of information you can convey with language. Your psychic abilities are another language, which is a symbolic language, which is multidimensional, which conveys infinitely more information than language does. So part of us awakening and moving from our perspective stuck in the three-dimensional reality is opening up to more of our higher being, more of our multidimensional self. And your psychic abilities are really just ways of communicating in that multidimensional realm.
So what would you say to someone who took a meditation course, for example, or dabbled in meditation, and then basically meditated, but nothing really happened? I'm sure that question comes up a lot.
There's many different forms of meditation out there for you to try. And some of them focus on, so let's think of some examples. So there are forms of meditation that will take you on a visualization journey. You know, imagine you're in a lovely, peaceful garden, for example. And you may go on that journey, and then when it's over, you might feel a little bit relaxed, but bang, you're right back into the reality that you left before you went on that journey. And you go, well, how is this helping me really? Maybe it's giving me half an hour of relaxation. There are other forms of meditation that, you know, you're meditating in stillness, you're becoming the neutral observer of your thoughts, but you're not really changing anything. So again, you're disengaging from the disturbances and the distractions, but you're not necessarily making any shifts within yourself. So the form of meditation, and some of the meditation forms are taking you outside of the body. The form of meditation that I teach is teaching you how to be in your body and be in charge of your energy. And if there are things that are in your energy that are not benefiting you, then you learn energy techniques that help you consciously shift and change those limits. So, you know, back to talking about the book and the courses, that one of the things that both of those things do is, yes, it teaches you to meditate, but it also teaches you, what are my blocks? What's blocking me? What is stopping me moving forward in my life the way that I want to? Or what's blocking me from accessing my intuition? And we find out what they are, and then we use energy techniques to shift them, clear them. No longer something that's present in your energy field. So it is a process of healing yourself. I always say psychic development, it's a dual path. It's not just about developing your psychic abilities and being able to do these amazing things and know things about other people and know things about the future. Actually, what it's about is it's about you knowing yourself, becoming more authentically yourself and expressing yourself. And to do that, you have to heal. So the dual path is, yes, I'm learning about my psychic gifts, but in order to benefit from and access those psychic gifts, I have to heal myself. I actually have to change myself inside. I liken it to, like, you're energy could be like a dirty window that you can't see through. So
Right.
when you meditate and when you practice these energy techniques, you clean the dirty window, then you can see through the dirty window, meaning you can access your intuition, if that makes sense.
Absolutely does. Now you hear this word chakras kicked around a lot. Chakras. And I understand they're energy wheels, but for somebody who doesn't even know what they are, can you speak a little bit about them? A little bit about the history and a little bit about what they are and why anybody would want to learn about them?
Okay, they are energy centers and they are conduits for your spiritual information. So you are not your physical body. You are an eternal being of light. You are a particle of God consciousness, incarnating into a physical body. And, you know, so the chakras are kind of like an information highway that connects you to your higher being. So you access your spiritual information through your chakras. Each of the chakras channels a different psychic abilities, actually. So there's been a lot written about the chakras in terms of health and healing. You know, the idea that these energy centers, the energy needs to be flowing through them, and they need to be unblocked and clear in order for you to have a healthy body, and that's true. But what nobody has ever really written about before is how the chakras are conduits for your spiritual information. And that's what is special and different about this book, Intuition and Chakras, because it isn't a book about chakras in the traditional sense. It is a book about chakras and how they connect you to your higher information. They are also, and it's not a one-way information highway, it's a two-way information highway. And so as you go through your life experiences, you are processing your life experiences through those energy channels. So and your life experience is contributing to the expansion of your soul. That's one of the reasons that you're here and a body on this planet, is to go through experiences to learn and grow. I was going to say there's an analogy I use in the book, which is to sort of imagine that the idea of the Mars rover.
Which book?
Oh, this book, the Intuition
book.
Okay. But imagine
you have a few.
the idea of the Mars rover, and
right.
So it's a bit like your body's a bit like the Mars rover. Here it is. It's landed on this planet. It's equipped with all this sensory information to navigate its way in the planet. But it's also connected to NASA and the control center at NASA. And it's sending signals back to NASA, and NASA's sending information back to it. So if you can imagine NASA being your higher being and the Mars rover being the body personality self, it gives you a simple analogy perhaps to start to understand the chakra system as conduits of communication.
So what is evidence to us that processing our life situations through our chakras is going to benefit us?
Well, it happens anyway. It's happening anyway. You kind of don't need to ask that. Whether you're conscious of it happening or not, it is happening.
Right.
You know, just the way, it's just what is. Just as you have a physical body, you have an energy body. You know, just as you have endocrine glands and bundles of nerves in your physical body, you also have these chakras. And in fact, the chakras are associated with the endocrine glands, and they are associated with bundles of nerves. And they are, well, another way of thinking about them is the body-spirit interface. So your chakras are associated with the nervous system and the endocrine system. The nervous system and the endocrine system are the systems that control within your body, control your body, right? How your body functions. Right. And spirit is intricately connected with all of that. And one of the main ways is through the chakras.
Right. You mentioned you had many courses on your website and in various arenas. So someone was brand new to this. What course would you recommend to them first?
So I have an excellent course called Unlock Your Intuition. And it is an 8-week-long course. It takes you through the chakra system, and it takes you through it takes you through the understanding of your intuition, but it also really, really focuses on getting unblocked and clearing the dirty window. The principles that are in that course are written about in the book, but really there's no, this stuff is best learned through experience. In fact, you can't,
of course,
can't be done any other way. So that course teaches you some amazing energy techniques, which are life-changing in themselves. But it's also kind of like a prerequisite into many of the other courses that are in the school anyway. And actually, by the way, there's a free
wonderful.
There's a free webinar that people can come to, and they will get, it's really a 3-part webinar. The first part is discovering what your intuition blocks might be. So we go through the 7 major intuition blocks that I encounter in my practice over and over again. I haven't met anyone who's come to the webinar that hasn't said, oh, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me, yes, yes, yes. That's part 1. Part 2 is introducing you to 4 of the psychic abilities. There are actually 22 of them. All of them are covered in the book, but in the webinar, we go through 4 of the major ones that really might be, and you will, again, even if you are new to this stuff, you will recognize yourself, because what we do is we talk about, well, what are some of the signs of this particular ability starting to open up. So let's give you an example. When you were a kid, were you a sensitive child? Were you a know-it-all? You know, because those kinds of things are really labels that get attached because the kid is showing signs of their psychic abilities. So if you're a know-it-all, and you're knowing a bunch of stuff and you can't stop telling people what you know, that's your knowingness, your claircognizance, which is an aspect of your crown chakra. If you're really super sensitive to other people's emotional energy, you know, and everyone tells you, oh, you're too sensitive, that's another psychic ability. It's called clairsentience. Part 2 of the webinar series is to help you understand some of your own traits, because some of your life challenges are actually a sign of your psychic abilities. Because when you come through the other side of those life challenges, it turns around into a gift. So for example, and I talk about case studies in the webinar, and I'm just thinking of one of them is a lady who had lots of issues with boundaries, with emotional overwhelm, confusion between, you know, love and sex and things like that. A whole bunch of issues are in that emotional realm, and they were to do with her second chakra. And when we worked together to help her overcome those blocks and barriers and clear her second chakra, she actually became a doula and then a doctor of Chinese medicine, specializing in women's reproductive health. So all the blocks and challenges that she had were all around that, then when she overcame them, she was able to be a healer and a teacher in that realm. And, you know, I have examples of that in the webinar and in the book, over and over and over again. So, you know, you might think, well, oh, I don't have psychic abilities. All I have is all these problems. But there's actually probably a relationship with some of those problems in your chakra system and the psychic abilities. Yeah, and then the final part 3 of that webinar is to explain a little bit more about the course, the Unlock Your Intuition course. So that's a great way, is to sign up for the webinar, and then they can find out more about all of that.
Yeah, we can share a link with everyone. So you've been doing this for a while, it seems. I mean, you must have had a teacher, and you must have had someone who brought you into the knowingness of your gifts. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I did, you know, and I think having a teacher is, you know, and here's the thing. What is the definition of a good teacher? The definition of a good teacher is somebody who helps you remember what you already know, or somebody who's standing the other side of the river and shows you how you can cross the river. You know, so it's not somebody who says, well, I'm a guru, bow down to me.
Right, of course.
Steer clear of that. And so, you know, and can we come to all of this on our own? We can, but, you know, a really good teacher is going to help you get there faster, because they're going to be able to help you through those blocks, because they've been there and done that.
Right. Right. So may I ask, who was your teacher? Or do you want to speak a little bit about your teacher and your relationship with your teacher?
I can do. So that time I talked about, when I went through very intense spiritual awakening, I was, and it was for about 4 years. I went through a 2-year clairvoyance training program and a 2-year spiritual teacher training program at a place called the CDM Psychic Institute. And the leader of that is a lady called Mary Ellen Flora. And so I would say she was my main spiritual teacher in terms of helping me to discover who I really was, you know, and to now for the last really 20 years, I've been out doing this work and teaching and writing books and doing readings and doing healing and all of those things.
Yeah, right. And what prompted you to get that kind of teaching?
So when I lived in England, and I moved to Canada in 1998, and when I lived in England, I used to have a lot of dreams. I used to keep a dream diary. And through that dream diary, I started to become aware that there was more to what meets the eye. So I experienced myself in past lives, in my dreams. I experienced people I knew in present life reality, in past lives, in my dreams. I met my spirit guides in my dreams. I had premonitions of my own future and world events in my dreams. And so that set me on a journey to explore what is this about. And I actually joined a dream group in the UK, first of all. Doesn't exist anymore. I can't even remember the name of it, but the lady who ran it was called Elizabeth Richards. And so we used to meet every week, and we'd all bring our favorite dream of the week, and we would talk about it, meditate on it. We taught ourselves to do lucid dreaming. We taught ourselves to do dream re-entry, to meet each other in our dreams, and had lots and lots of adventures. So the people I knew in that dream group introduced me to a school in the UK called the School of Intuition. And the teachers in that school were called Julie Soskin and Rupert Soskin. And he was a healer and she was a clairvoyant. And I took classes there for about a year, around 1998. Then I moved to Canada and I looked for something similar. A similar tribe of people that were like me, and that I could continue my journey. And that's when I found the CDN Psychic Institute in Mary Ellen Flora. And so I was a student there from 1999 to about 2004. So I graduated as a clairvoyant in 2003, I think, and maybe, if I'm remembering this right, maybe 2001, 2-ish, and then a teacher a couple of years after that. And so all of that training for me was invaluable. And one of the reasons is because, and it's very common, I guess, in our generation, Shy Rose, that, you know, we're all born with these psychic abilities, we all have them, but if the culture isn't supportive, then we just shift our focus completely to the physical world. And so we have to go through this process of reawakening and clearing out that more physical focus. So all of that training was really invaluable to me because of that. And it changed my life. So up until 2005, I was a scientist and a business executive in the biotech industry. And after 2005, I started to veer into more being a spiritual teacher or a spiritual counselor. Yeah.
Took you back there a little bit.
You did.
You mentioned dreams, and you mentioned dream journal. Most people will tell you that they don't even remember their dreams, but seem to feel like they want to remember their dreams. What advice would you give them?
So I'll paint a.
And what's the importance of that, anyways?
Yeah. So you know, I trained myself. I'm going to get a prop here. I trained myself at that time. I used to sleep with a little thing like this under my pillow. I was single at the time. And I used to go to sleep with my finger on the and whenever I went into a REM cycle, I pressed this and I trained myself to dictate my dream into the recording device. And when I would wake up in the morning, I would have 4 or 5 dreams. The only one I would remember is the last one. So the one I'd just dreamed, I'd have a vague memory of it. But there was like 3 or 4 other dreams. I had zero memory at all. And yet my voice was speaking, narrating the dream as it was happening. And so, you know, when we are dreaming, in a way, well, let's see. Trying to answer your question here, which is like, what's the use of it and how can I remember my dreams? So how can I remember my dreams? Setting the intention before you go to sleep that you will remember your dream. And then when you wake up, not jumping out of bed immediately, but just waking up slowly and keeping those images. And in fact, it's probably easier to speak them than to write them because, the more you wake up, the more they dissolve. But I also just mention, when we're asleep, we're going into that multi-dimensional dream. So not all dreams are meant to be brought back into your consciousness. and all of them can't be, because there is more content in that dream experience than you have capacity for in your brain. And some of it's not relevant to physical reality. You know, some of it is, it wouldn't make sense. So, you know, also set the intention that you're just going to bring in what is relevant to your waking existence.
And so intentions are very powerful in that then.
Sure. And I mean, I think like anything, in order to manifest it, you have to really want it. You have to have a passion for it. You have to focus on it, you know, spend time focusing on it, sort of fill your being with that idea that this is what you're doing.
Right. And you genuinely want that in your reality, and things that you genuinely want in your reality result in manifesting in your reality. And that could be things that you want and things that you don't want. And so let's talk a little bit about manifesting then, and being successful at it, and what role intuition and intuition training plays in that ability.
So I'm going to flip to a page in my book. Give me a second to find it. I think it's page 39. Oh no, it isn't. So there's a chapter near the beginning of my book where we talk about manifestation and the ingredients of successful manifestation, and there's a list of them. Found it, so it's page 30. And so, and here they are, and I will just sort of like praise you the titles of them. So you've got to know what you want. You've got to ask for it to be created. You've got to believe that you can have it. You've got to be the vibration of it, so you're an attraction point for it. You've got to be able to recognize it when it arrives, because maybe it won't show up in the form that you thought it would. And then you have to allow yourself to receive it and have it and enjoy it. And let go of any resistance that you might have to your creations once they arrive. And so how developing your intuition can help you with that is it can help you to know what you want. It can help you to ask for what you want, and it can help you if anywhere, see where you are blocking your manifestation process. And at least in the way I teach intuition, you have energy techniques that can help you to clear the blocks that you identify, working with the energy that you become aware of within your system.
Right. So really, it's going to help you improve all of those processes you just mentioned. Then having the ability to increase your knowing of yourself and being able to go within and work with yourself to become more aware will absolutely affect your ability to manifest as well.
Yeah. And the more you heal yourself, the more it will affect what you manifest is going to show up faster and be more resonating with what you really want. You know, reality is a mirror. It is a mirror for the energy that you are broadcasting. So if you're broadcasting, I suck, I'm unworthy, nobody loves me, I don't know, you know, that's what reality shows back at you, because that's kind of what that's the flavor pizza that you're ordering. But isn't
that kind of mean of reality?
Pardon?
Isn't that kind of mean of the reality to do that to you? Knowing it's not what you really intend, but that's what you're showing. So there must be a purpose to this that's positive.
You are learning how to be a conscious creator. The reality is mirroring back at you what you are. and helping you to see what you're putting out. And then the idea is that you can become consciously aware, and change your vibration, so that you can become the deliberate creator of your reality instead of the unconscious creator of your reality. And when you're the deliberate creator of your reality, reality kind of shows up in more of a pleasant way. Maybe.
So let's talk about a little bit about vibration. You mentioned it. Everyone's on a different life path. Everyone's experiences are different. Everyone's level of knowing and learning is different. So how is it that doing the work you're suggesting is going to help all these different classes of individuals surpass their blockages?
Because it meets you where you are, and it takes you where you're going. So it doesn't make you all the same, quite the opposite.
Right.
It meets you where you are. This spiritual path is not a path that makes everybody the same. Like many religions want to make everybody the same, want to make them the same vibration, believe the same beliefs. This is rather a framework of information that helps you, meets you where you are, helps you discover who you are, and helps you tread your own unique path, helps you connect directly with your own source, your own inspiration, your own guidance. So if you can plug in directly to your own source, then, you know, it's not like everybody take the pink pill and vibrate pink. It's, you know, this is you, and this is how to be more you. And this is how to get the guidance that is the best guidance from you, because it comes from your own higher being.
Right. And so we all feel like we have some sort of guidance system within us. Most of us know what's right and what's wrong. Most of us can ascertain the direction we should be going in versus we are going in. So is there some way of like sometimes an individual will do quite the opposite of what their internal guidance system will tell them and continue to do so? Do you have any guidance for that person who does that?
Yeah, so usually what's at play is some kind of unconscious mechanism, unconscious programming. Usually it has its origins in their childhood. The energy techniques that I teach help them to remove that programming so that they they can find out what's stopping them following their intuition and make that choice. But I would just say, it's not true that everybody always knows their own answers. I see people every day who are confused and doubting themselves.
Right.
And also I'll just validate that you can overcome many of the blocks to intuition. But if you like, one of the final blocks you have to overcome is to follow it, because it's one thing to know what it's saying, and it's a completely different thing to follow it. Because what if it tells you you should leave your husband, you know, or your wife, or what if it tells you to change your job or your career? So many people can spend months or years knowing that my intuition is telling me this, my intuition is telling me this, but actually building up the momentum and the commitment and and overcoming the fear of change, it can take them a while to really anchor that in physical reality. So the book and the courses help,
and because it's not just fear, it's not just fear, it's like life-changing situations are going to occur that will bring uncertainty as to what's to come next when they listen to those intuitive messages from their guides. So
and actually,
what's there to give them the go ahead.
I was going to say, actually, and the other thing is that even at the beginning of making the choice to actively, consciously open your intuition can be frightening, because it's what people fear is, I will change. If I change, how will that affect the people in my life? Will they still love me?
Right.
Will they still accept me? How will my relationships change?
Right.
Because they know on some level that their relationship will change, probably.
Right. Right. And those are life-changing situations where your relationships change, your surroundings could change, your colleagues could change. And so what would give someone confidence to move forward in that guidance then?
Well, in some senses, I think the answer to that is unique to every person.
Right.
But if I can find a generalized answer, is I think ultimately what everybody wants is to be seen and loved and accepted for who they are. And in order to be seen and loved and accepted for who you are, and that's often not what they're getting in their life experience, but it's sort of like,
right.
It's also not often what they're giving out isn't their authentic self either. And so, what people want is to be their authentic selves, express themselves authentic, be seen for who they are, be loved for who they are. And, and I think that thing about, well, this is going to help you to be your authentic self is an answer that helps people, because that's what they truly want. They don't want to have facades and pretenses and all the rest of it.
Can you talk a little bit about confirmation and synchronicities and how they would pop up in their lives to help them, to help confirm for them what's happening, their choices they're making are accurate or not accurate?
So, from my perspective, your reality is your own creation. But oftentimes things will show up to help you affirm something, like, seeing strings of numbers, or a bird feather, or whatever it is that has meaning for you. That is a signal that you've embedded within your own reality to help you awaken, to help you confirm to yourself that you're on the right track.
Right.
And so it's
going to be a system and a symbol that's unique to you. Is that correct?
Sometimes, not always. There are lots of people who see feathers as a confirmation of communication with an angel. Angels don't actually have feathers, but people believe they do, so people see feathers. For example, there are, you've probably encountered hundreds of people who see strings of numbers, sequences of numbers.
Yes.
So they are awakening. So some of them are sort of like part of embedded by the mass consciousness. They're awakening codes that are for the mass consciousness awakening. But still, you're having your unique experience of seeing a string of ones. And in the moment that, or twos or threes or whatever it is, and in the moment that you see it, it does wake you up. You pause and you pay attention to it. That means something. That's unusual that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to your book now. Do you want to share a little bit about your book, how your book comes to be, and a little bit about the chapters in it and what they represent. And so we can give everyone a summary of what the book is so that they can know what to expect when they get it.
Yeah. No, I'd love to, and I'll just show the book cover. So it's called Intuition and Chakras, How to Increase Your Psychic Development Through Energy, and it's published by Llewellyn. How the book came about. There are probably a few different threads coming together, but one of them was that on the radio show, we did an experiment for about a year where people could write in a question and have the question answered, an email question. And we had thousands of them. And I was able to see the patterns in what people were asking about. And the most common question, which was about at least 45% of all the questions, was some version of, what is my life purpose? So then I started, when I had a speaking engagement, saying, you know, who believes they've got a life purpose? And everyone would say, well, I do. Who knows what it is? All the hands would go down. And so it's sort of like amazing to me that we all believe we have a life purpose, but very few know what it is. And I said, well, the path to people knowing their life purpose is through their intuition, is through their connection with their own higher being. And so in developing their own intuition, then they can have access to all of their life questions, including what is my life purpose. So that was one of my reasons for writing the book. Another of the reasons was because I wanted to share the information, my information about psychic abilities, because I think there's a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding. Mm-hmm. And so the book takes you, I have a process in my practice called an intuition blueprint, or a psychic ability blueprint. And what this is a consultation with me where we look at your unique profile of psychic abilities that you were born with. Because we all have psychic abilities and we're all born with them. And we bring in from our infinite being the precise configuration that is supportive of the life purpose that we came here to live. And so, you know, I introduced the concept of your unique intuition blueprint as a roadmap to discovering your life purpose. Because by looking at the configuration of psychic abilities in your chakra system this lifetime, you can get information about your life purpose. So the psychic ability blueprint, you know, I look at people's blueprint now and when they were born, and then we look at the life trajectory in terms of if they've turned their abilities down, and if they did, what caused them to be blocked, and how can they reawaken them. So in the book, I take people through a journey of trying to discover for themselves what their unique psychic blueprint is. So part 2 of the book is all about, here are the 22 psychic abilities, and here are some examples, and here are some signs that, you know, you might recognize, challenges that you've been through that you might resonate with. So they start to know themselves on the level of their chakra system and on the level of their psychic abilities. And there's a little exercise in the back where you actually can draw up your own blueprint chart. Part 1 of the book is, it's sort of like an introduction to the whole thing. So one of the things we go through is, what can block you? What are the major blocks that I see that block most people? And, you know, we talk about life purpose as well. We do an introduction to the chakra system, an introduction to the energy field, and also ask the question like, why might you want to develop your intuition? What are some of the benefits from it? And also busting some of the myths. Like I said, you know, it sometimes bothers me. There's a lot of people out there posting online and doing YouTube videos. And from my perspective, not all of the information is accurate. And a lot of it's just very surface level. And I don't think anyone is given the depth of information that's in this book before. And the last section is some energy techniques to help you to develop your intuition. So there's 5 chapters of energy techniques and energy practices and meditations that you can use to start to open and develop your psychic abilities. And I use, all the way through the book, I use real life examples of people I know or people that I've helped in my practice, and I think that, I mean, there's probably over 30 different stories of different people, if not more than that.
Yeah.
You're one of them.
Yes, I'm one of them. How did you decide whose stories, and how did that come to you? Like, I'm going to use this story for this topic and this person for this topic. How did that all come together? I just got a call one day from Lesley and can I use your story on blah, 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 for my book? And I'm like, sure, right? But I never got the opportunity to ask you why you chose that story or why you've chosen any of the other stories.
So I had a framework for the book where it's a journey through the chakras, but there's
Right.
So let me see what I always forget how I've ordered the chapters in there. So okay, so part 2 is like intuition and the 7th chakra, intuition and the 6th chakra, intuition and the 5th chakra. So each chapter is intuition and a particular chakra or combination of chakras. And then within that chapter are the psychic abilities that are channeled through that chakra. And I wanted at least one story for each of the 22 psychic abilities. And so I just had to sort of think about, well, who springs to mind in terms of people I've worked with,
Right.
that would be a good example of this. And then, of course, I had to reach out and ask permission of people. Most people said yes. Some people said no. And so, you know, I had to then think of another story that I could put in there. So, yeah, you know, most of them are people who are my students or who are people who've had mentoring, intuitive coaching from me, or, you know, sometimes readings and healings from me. Mostly people who've worked with me because they're really stories about how people turned their problems around. Your story is a unique one. I'm trying to remember what chapter your story is in. I think, oh, here we go. Page 149, chapter 12, Shiro's and the Crystal Skull. Intuition and the
It's
third.
funny because
We're talking about out-of-body experience.
absolutely. Yes, and I had the pleasure of interviewing Joshua again, whose skull the story is about. And at the time I have the experience, I was quite skeptical. And Joshua simply gives me, he came with 13 or 14 different skulls, and he said, do you want to sleep with one tonight? And I'm like, sleep with one? Okay. And so he's like, which one do you want to sleep with? And I'm not exactly a fan of skulls or imagery of skulls. And there was one skull that was kind of cute and small and didn't look very aggressive. And so I chose that one. And Lesley's book will tell you the rest of what happened then, because it's quite unique and quite
don't know whether Shy Rose has woken up yet.
Pardon me?
We don't know if you've woken up yet from that experience. Oh,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Hold on one sec. You've frozen for some reason. I think that you can read the story on when you get the book from Lesley, because it's quite spectacular.
And there's lots of amazing stories in there of different people, you know, and their experiences with their psychic abilities.
Absolutely. Well, I haven't read it yet, but I did get your book. And as soon as I finish reading it, I'll send you a review for it.
Yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Lesley, I think I've exhausted all my questions for this time. Do you have anything you want to share that you want to have brought across to our audience before you go?
I mean, I think, I mean, I really want to focus in present time, just because I've built up so much over the last 15 to 20 years in terms of education about this and offerings to people. So I really want to invite you all to come to the Awaken Your Intuition webinar, where you can learn more about what might be blocking you from your psychic abilities, where you can learn more about your psychic abilities, and where you can hear a little bit more about the Unlock Your Intuition course. And there's a live Q&A, and I will answer any questions you have about your psychic abilities and your psychic development in person on that webinar. The webinar is run regularly, so there's not just one date. But if you click the link that Shy Rose will put at the bottom of the video, it will just take you to the latest one that we are having. And, you know, I'm going to show you the book again. I've really poured my heart and soul into this book. It's packed with information.
Can you speak a little bit about the image on the book?
The image on the book was designed by Llewellyn, by their design team. And so the authors don't really get the input. And when I first saw it, when I very first saw it, I didn't like it. But there was
I was thinking it's not very Lesley.
But
I was thinking that
yeah, it's grown on me, and there's two reasons why. One, the color of the book stands out on the bookshelf because there's not many other, all the books that are sort of darker, it pops from, and all the books that are lighter, it shows up against. That's one reason why they designed it that way. And the other thing is, you know, if I think about the chakras and these birds, you know, everyone is unique. Everyone's chakra system is unique. Everyone's psychic ability blueprint is unique. So these birds, to me, are talking about the uniqueness of each individual. But they're also, because of their bright gem colors, are reminding me of the chakra system. And, you know, I suppose that this side profile it's sort of bringing it to the human being. You know, this is you. You have all this with you. So now I like it now. And I like it now, and it has meaning to me. You know, and so
well, you've made meaning for yourself. When I first saw it, I'm like, this cover doesn't look very Lesley at all. Like I don't feel Lesley in this cover. I wonder how it came to be. And but then that imagery, what that meant to me were the birds were your thoughts, and they're flying away and in different directions. And this book is about intuition chakras, which is going to stop that process and bring you more inside yourself, which you see an image of below. And so that was what that imagery meant to me then.
Yeah. So I mean, there's different ways that you can take it, and you know, that's the other thing. I mean, same thing with this book. I mean, I think that there's so much information in there. You could probably read it many times and get more out of it each time you did. Just like the Midas tree, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. The Midas tree is amazing. I did read that, and I actually did write a review for Lesley for that. And it is quite an amazing story. And it really does take you through all those intuition skills that'll help, whether you're an adult or whether you're a child. That story reality will teach you those skills. And I actually think that Midas tree is so good that it should be made into an animation or a movie one of these days.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think so. There was a lady that wanted to make it into a play.
Nice.
I don't know really what happened about that. She could have made it into a play and not told me. I don't know.
Oh, yes, of course.
I should look that up. But yeah, I mean, you know, I would say the Midas tree is, and people have different learning styles. So it teaches you without even feeling like you're being taught anything, because it's a story. And there's so many layers of information.
Right.
You can read it. It will meet you where you're at on your journey. One of my students said to me earlier this week, she said, this is my Bible. She said, this has become my Bible. It really is. It really is a good reference for so much information. And you don't have to read it in order. You know, you can flip through in a different order depending on.
Yeah.
And actually, that reminds me what I've decided to do on my podcast for the rest of the year.
Yes.
And when we've sort of at the beginning of the year been working our way through section 1 of the book in the subject matter that we've chosen for the podcast. But now we're going through section 2 of the book, and every episode from now until the end of the year is going to be about a different psychic ability. So we're working our way through the content.
Oh, wow.
It's a bit like a book club with the author. Although you don't have to have the book to listen to the podcast, and you'll benefit from the podcast regardless. But it's a great opportunity.
We highly recommend it.
Yeah, if you're thinking of buying the book, you may as well tune into the podcast as well, because that will give you the opportunity to ask me, the author of the book, any questions that you have as you go through it.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you, Lesley. Thank you so much for doing this interview with us. And thank you for introducing us to your new book and sharing some of your insights with our audience. I hope to bring more of our audience to your website and hopefully bring you to an event we can do together for our audience that will hopefully share some more insights with them.
Yes, and you know what we should say to the audience is, if you would like me to come and teach a workshop, put in the comments below what you want it to be on. You can choose.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea. So yes, please share with us your ideas for a topic. And the one that has the most hits is the one we'll do the workshop on. Thank you for that idea, Lesley. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you as always. Bye for now, Lesley.
Bye.